welcome to all you who have joined us for this amazing feast day, the feast of Francis of Assisi. And we come together in the name of love. And we give thanks to our Father, Mother God for this great Son who in the 12th century began an amazing journey that has touched the lives of so many ordinary men and women right up to this present day. And we, the brothers and sisters of the Teo community of Interfaith Franciscans, celebrate with you. But first, let us light our light for peace, for unity and for justice, for the marginalized in our world. And let this light, the light of the Spirit of Francis, touch all our hearts on this amazing day. And we begin with the Celtic benediction. Deep peace, pure white of the moon to you. Deep peace, pure green of the grass to you. Deep peace, pure brown of the earth to you. Deep peace, pure grey of the dew to you. Deep peace, pure blue of the sky to you. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. And deep peace of the shining stars to you. And deep peace of the Son of Peace to you. Let us now hold each other by the hand of Franciscan love, where we come together to celebrate this amazing feast of this simple, beautiful man of God. And I hold before you one of our little images that we have here in our small monastery of Francis with his wolf, his friend, his brother, his teacher. And this is the man we celebrate today. A man of God, a man of love, and a man who emulated the Gospels of the Christ. I would like to read to you, if I may, a summary from the author of this beautiful book, The Franciscans in the Middle Ages. And he really sums up the history of this amazing foundation of men and women. Saint Francis of Assisi is one of the most admired figures of the Middle Ages and one of the most important in the Christian Church, modeling his life on the literal observance of the Gospel and recovering an emphasis on the poverty experienced by Jesus, the cosmic Christ. From 1217, Francis sent communities of friars throughout Christendom and launched missions to several countries, including India and China. The movement soon became established in most cities and several large towns, and enjoying close relationships with the popes. Its followers were ideal instruments for the propagation of the reforms of the Fourth Lateran Council, the Fourth Lateran Council of 1215. They quickly became part of the landscape of medieval life and made their influence throughout society. Francis is an amazing man who today his spirit touches the hearts of ordinary men and women who give selflessly to the poor, to the needy and the oppressed, but who also have a great respect for Mother Earth and the animal kingdom. I would like to read to you on this, the Feast of St. Francis, a section of this amazing book, The Franciscans in the Middle Ages, by Michael Robson. It says, "They have so multiplied in such a short time that there is no Christian province where some of these brothers do not reside." And that was by Jacques de Vitré. On the section on recruitment, the author says, Francis' vocation reflected contemporary aspirations for a clearer expression of Christian values. His literal response to the scriptures injected a freshness and vitality into a society which was searching for new ways of giving authentic expression to its Christian vocation. Fidelity to the gospel, an aesthetical life, and the pursuit of goodness, which had previously been perceived as the preserve of the spiritual elite residing in monasteries, were brought to the marketplace and the piazza by Francis. The friars' fervour and dedication were rooted in apostolic zeal and a community life whose hallmarks were simplicity and cheerfulness. The striking levels of recruitment between the years 1212 and 1220 facilitated the spread of the order and caught the attention of contemporary chroniclers. Vocations were drawn from a broad spectrum of society, including on the one hand Leonard, whose parents were of a higher social rank in Assisi than Francis' family, and on the other converted robbers in the region of Borgo San Sepolcro, amongst many others. Following Francis' first steps to reach the Holy Land about 1211, he undertook a preaching tour which brought several good and suitable men, both laymen and clerics. Their diversity is illustrated by Hermann, a chaplain of the Teutonic Knights, and Alexander of Bremen, a scholastic in his local cathedral. The small number of prelates includes Albert, abbot of the Benedictine monastery of St. Mary in Stade, who became a friar on the 20th of August 1240, and Stephen of St. Tibere, abbot of an unnamed Benedictine monastery. Francis attracted bishops and high-ranking clerics to embrace the authentic gospel of Christ. And that is amazing. And what is so fascinating about this amazing little book is that it talks about the poor followers of Francis. Who were they? Well, they're just like our brothers and sisters of the Teo community of Interfaith Franciscans, for we have heard the call of Francis and Clara, who call us to a radical way of living and embracing the wildness of heart, where we detach ourselves from the world, its dramas, its tests, its trickery, and its mockery. And we find ourselves collaborating to support the marginalized, like Francis, through our prayer life, a life of simplicity, a life totally dedicated to God, for unity and peace and justice, and that all faiths will come together and sit at the table of God in love. There was a strong correlation between the order's poverty and its phenomenal rate of recruitment. Contemporary ideas about the simple life rooted in the gospel were incorporated into the rule, while renunciation lay at the heart of the traditional forms of religious life. Francis imitated his divine teacher literally. The virtue which he and his disciples feminized as Lady Poverty became its most distinctive feature. Francis looked upon poverty especially dear to the Son of God, although it was spurned throughout the world. Dante presents Francis as joined to Lady Poverty, who had been bereft of her first husband, despised and obscure for 1100 years and more. This imitation of the poor Christ and the apostles recovered an earlier strand in the Christian tradition and the friar's decision to adopt evangelical poverty in the most literal manner distinguished them visibly from other religious. The adjective mendicant denoted the friar's decision to cast themselves on divine providence and their reliance on alms. The friar's bare feet, poor clothing, and rejection of money claimed Albert of Pisa exalted the order. Today, the teachings of Francis of Assisi are a challenge to a world that has become obsessed with status, designer clothes, designer labels, and living in a world that has become spiritually impoverished, a society that has alienated its heart from a loving God. So we, the brothers and sisters of the Teo community, who were called by Francis in 2008 to come away from our comfort zone. As a Catholic Christian, I am proud of my church, though saddened by the scandals. But I am not disheartened, for Jesus said, "There go I but for the grace of God." And when Jesus gave the keys of his kingdom to a mere mortal, an apostle who denied him 3 times, he knew He knew that many whom he would call would betray him. They would sell him short through deception, their lack of transparency. But Francis has his finger on the pulse, and that is evident today with the appointment of Papa Francis, the head of the Catholic Church. Because when Francis was called by God to rebuild his church, Francis took it literally to mean the little church of San Damiano in Assisi. But Christ was referring to the whole church, the whole Christian church, because from popes down to the ordinary cleric, the church was corrupt. It was more focused on status rather than on preaching the word of God by example. The hierarchy within the church had alienated its heart from the ordinary people, the children of God. And Francis was a messenger of God, like many others today, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Gandhi, Sri Chinmoy, Saint Therese of Lisieux, Bernadette of Subaru, Corrie ten Boom, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Therese of Calcutta. There are many who are following in the footsteps of the barefoot Galilean and who are taking the words literally like Francis to their heart, to embrace God in the natural world, to have a reverence for God, a respect for nature, the animal kingdom, angelic beings in disguise who shower blessings of abundance on the children of God. Francis, I know, is alive and well in the hearts and in the minds of those who surrender to God. Like our brothers and sisters within the Teo community, for we have chosen the better part, but in the eyes of the world, I guess our lifestyle choice appears ridiculous. But is it ridiculous to follow your heart? Is it ridiculous to renounce your ego and your self-will and allow the divine speak to you and guide you? For what does it profit to gain all the degrees the universities offer you, all the wealth of the world, and suffer the loss of your soul? And many, sadly, are doing that today through their choice, but they are loved by God. Francis, his humility, his no-nonsense approach to living the monastic life in the world, challenged the popes of Rome. He upset a lot of clerics, not by words, but by his example, by following the Christ literally, by trusting in the providence of God. And we who give our lives to God as interfaith Franciscans, when we kneel down on our day of commitment, we take the sevenfold vow relating to our rule of life. And the greatest promise we can make is not the vow of detachment or celibacy or obedience to our heart, but it's the vow of providence, where we trust implicitly that our God will meet our every need. And I know that is true, because having renounced everything and given all my clothes away, and everything I owned has gone, I own nothing, but I have everything. I've absolutely everything I need, like Francis. My food is provided for. The blessings I receive, like today, yesterday, I was making some caramelized red onion tropical fruit chutney to give to friends and neighbors for Christmas presents. And I realized I'd no chutney jars. I couldn't afford to buy the glass jars, and I don't wish to sound pecuniary or mean, so I put it to God and I just said, Jesus, I need containers. And instantly a thought came to my heart. Phone Irene, who looks after the dogs when they need grooming, and she provided me with 12 jars. And guess what? It only took 12 jars to provide a container base for the chutney I had made. That's maybe a silly example, but whatever our needs are, they're always met. Maybe not tomorrow for today, but they're always met on the 11th second of the 11th minute of the 11th hour. The vow of providence Francis emulated in his life. His bed was the earth. His oratory was the cave. And his congregation were the fields. He didn't want monasteries. He didn't want to found a religious order. He just wanted to follow his heart. And so many people were touched by his simplicity, by his austerity, and by his love and humor, that they too wanted to give up their riches. And many were wealthy. Many had titles. Many held positions of great influence. And they were willing to give it all up to follow the dream of Francis. Let us now reflect. Let us come to this table and let us come into the cave with Francis. Today is his feast day, and as you can see on our little altar, there are many candles lighting, thanking God for this great Son, our Holy Father, our patron. Thanking God for Brother Leo and all the men and women from the 12th century who gave their lives to him and continue to do so today in bringing the love of God through Franciscan hospitality. Not dogma, not fear, not control, but love. Let us relax in this cave. Let us take a deep breath and let us become aware that angels are present with us. And in this cave, we see a young man in rags, in bare feet. They look splintered and torn, but the skin looks weathered and black from walking the earth. His hair is disheveled, but as we look at him, there is something about him that invites us to be with him. He has a charisma, and his aura is magnificent. He says nothing, he is silent, and his arms are outstretched to his God in the shape of the Teo symbol that our brothers and sisters of the Teo community wear about their neck. Our arms are uplifted like Francis, and we say, "Here I am, O Lord. Here I am, your humble servant. Though I have wronged you and failed you, and though I have fallen by the wayside so many times, you pick me up, you dust me down, and you invite me to try again. Here I am. I offer you my heart. I offer you my love. I offer you all that I could be as a brother and sister Franciscan, to emulate Saint Francis, to be a man of God, a man of prayer, a man of peace. Here I am, use me." And in that moment, we become aware of the Christ. The Christ is standing in the center of Francis. He appears to us through Francis, and he lifts up his arms and he says, "Touch my hand, touch my hand, and let us walk this path together. I do not promise you earthly riches. I do not say the journey will be easy, but I do promise you this: I will never leave you. I will never ever forsake you." And you become aware of the love of God. And Francis turns around and he shows you the stigmata in his hands and in his feet. And you fall at his feet and you thank God for this simple man who has called you and me by name to follow the barefoot Galilean. For Francis is the way to the Christ. Francis, like you and me, is still a great messenger who invites every child of God from all faiths and none to come and follow the beloved and embrace their God. Just sit now and allow the love of God and the love of our Holy Father and Founder, Francis of Assisi, bless each one of us and fill us with the peace and the love of our God. And we hold to you now again this simple figurine of Francis and Brother Wolf, his companion even at death, who licked his eyes that were blind to keep them moist from burning in the sun. This is our brother Francis. This is the man who calls you and me to come and follow the beloved, to seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness and its beauty, and all else will be given to us and more besides. This is Francis of Assisi, our 12th century mystic and holy man who renounced everything to embrace his beloved Lady Poverty.